Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you are watching this, either in your time zone or perhaps you're watching this replay in the future. Firstly, thank you to all of you who wanted to be here with me live for this. I didn't know I'd be doing this about 10 days ago, so it's a real treat to get to deliver this live with you. And for those of you watching in the future, thank you for signing up to be part of this broadcast. There were so many reasons that I wanted to do a little bit of a look ahead at 2019 for everybody this year. Number one, I want to continue to do my monthly energy updates. So there will be a January energy update. And number two, I felt like holding this live would give us all a chance to just come together and go, together for 2018. As all of its spiraling energy starts to wrap up. Because however your year has gone, and there are many people who've had a great year, a year of lots of elevation and forward movement and heartfelt experiences, the speed of the mini spirals that have been pushing us through our healing, our life, our awareness, our consciousness has been undeniable in this past 365 days. And it was interesting because I was in the bath, which is one of my favorite places. I love being in bodies of water. Something happens to me when I'm immersed in water. And it was about 2 weeks ago. And I was just sitting with meditating, talking to the Z's who I channel, and asking them about the year to come. And I heard very, very clearly 2019, year of beginnings. And I was like, that's very curious because, of course, beginnings happen every single day, every single moment. We're constantly reborn into a new moment. So I was curious what they meant by this. And it was shown to me that we are completing a 7-year cycle. So 2012 to 2019, we have gone through this 7-year process. And in some ways, some of the energies, evolution, revolution that people were expecting around 2012 is going to be happening more in this next 7 years, is what I was shown. It's not that we haven't seen things change and move, but there has been a lot of what I would call dismantling and disruption energy, particularly in the last 2 years. A lot of us have seen this disruption energy playing out in the world, but perhaps not quite as much building of the new as we would like. My sense of it is that we've seen innovation in certain areas, technologically, environmentally, but there's a cap on those things. And energetically, there has been a limit to what has been able to be brought out into the world in the last, let's say, 3-4 years, even though you could argue we've evolved in some ways. And what I was shown was that as difficult as the last, say, 2-3 years have been in terms of what we've experienced as a culture, politically and certainly with cultural conflict coming to the surface in a way that has been perhaps more uncomfortable than people have been used to for decades. The gift of all of that rising to the surface and looking as messy and as incoherent as it looks is that it starts to open out the playing field as we go through the next decade. Meaning, as things clearly aren't working, clearly are falling apart, clearly are very short-term, non-thought-out solutions, the need for innovation and the rise of revolutionary innovation starts to become not just more apparent, but more evident. So this is going to show up in many different ways. And I'm not somebody who can necessarily predict what science or technology are going to look like in the years to come. My speciality is a little more the human heart, the human soul, the human collective. But what I did hear quite clearly is for so many years, there have been these murmurings about the systems on Earth. And I remember back in 2010, 2011, hearing, oh, the banking system's going to collapse, and all these things that were being constantly forecast for months from now. And it's always been interesting to me that these things don't happen in the way that we expect them to, or perhaps have not yet happened in the catastrophic way that those things were predicted. And I bring this up because we asked for some questions about this broadcast, and quite a lot of you were asking about money, and you were asking about protecting yourself in the financial system. And I would personally argue that that question in and of itself, it doesn't really make sense. Meaning, if we have a flawed financial system that we are outgrowing, then to try and protect yourself within it, if you are concerned it's going to rupture or it's going to have a moment where it all goes down, is actually not really the point of the revolution in consciousness that we're going through. The one thing I can tell you from just living through the experience here in California of the fires is that your intuition kicks in when you are in need. And when you are in need, people, events will conspire to help you get to where you need to be and survive anything that you need to survive, that it's important for you to survive. So the reason I bring this up, and the reason I want to just focus on this financially for a moment, is much of what I have seen over the years in our spiritual communities and in our prophecies contains a big dose of fear. And that fear will paralyze us in the moment that we actually need to be alive, intuitive, responsive. So many of the fears that we often have about the world are actually getting in the way of what we can create. Meaning, if you're sitting there waiting for a system to crash and you're running anxiety about it for 3 years and it's still not happening, you've spent 3 years in anxiety rather than 3 years in creational energy. And you're also future projecting when you perceive it's going to happen, what the world is going to look like when it happens. And it actually paralyzes your creational ability. Don't get me wrong. I watched Zeitgeist in 2008, and then I really loved the movie Thrive in 2010 and 2011. And what I noticed for myself, and I've spoken to so many people who've had a similar response, is it's really important to take on that information without becoming paralyzed in the fear that runs through your body as you future project what that information is going to look like in the future. Because, and the reason I bring this up, timelines change all of the time. A timeline is the name that's given to a future possibility, a future destiny. So for example, in your personal life, let's say it's on your timeline to meet your partner in the next 2 years. You're single right now, you're looking to meet a partner. Let's say it's on your timeline to meet that partner in the next 2 years. You might meet the partner in 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half, 2 years. Just depends. Depends on where you go, how you respond to other events in your life, and how things line up for you. So if we look at collective timelines the same way, one of the things that the Z's explained to me was there has been a lot that has been averted in recent years, a lot of catastrophic events, interference that has actually been averted. And the reason I bring that up is it's so important for us to get into the driver's seat and create. One of the greatest gifts that we can receive from somebody who suddenly dies in our life, or who gets a terminal illness and we know they've only got 2 or 3 months left, one of the greatest gifts that we can get from the experience of going through that loss, of losing a loved one, is we're reminded how any day we can go. So I say this not to those of you who are already able to access gratitude, grace, and creational energy with some regularity. By the way, we don't have to live in that all the time. That's not really normal for most people. Think of the earth as an ocean, and the collective of humanity is an ocean. So one day you're in a cold patch, the next day you're in a warm patch, one day you're bobbing on the surface, the next day it's a bit wavy. And those things can change within seconds. So it's not that you have to be consistently grateful, creative, alive, but that you have to be able to access those with some regularity. So I say all of this to those of you who are living in fear, horror, or only living in WTF about what's going on here on Earth. The reason I'm called to be the messenger for this, for all of us, myself included, is because how and what we create in the decade to come is not only important and necessary, but is actually the way that the planet is going to change in consciousness and have a chance at an elevated reality in the decades to come. There's going to be a lot that we have to adapt to, both environmentally, but also in terms of what will be revealed to us in the decade or two to come about what's going on here and how Earth is playing out. So the reason I bring that up is because if you are getting lost in the paralysis or the fear, this is going to be a very, very uncomfortable year, 2019, to try and stay in that. And if you try and stay in that, you will start to notice that you will get magnetized into that kind of reality playing out for you. Because this is really rubber meets the road time, 2019 onwards, around fear or love and open consciousness. A certain amount of fear is normal to us all, but a dominant thread of fear paralyzes our ability to create. So, let me come full circle to where this all started. And for those of you who are a bit like, whoa, this is heavier than I thought it was going to be, don't panic. Number one, I'm never 100% certain where these conversations are going to go when I start speaking, because I'm just tapping into the collective voice here. But the reason I'm addressing this head on now at the beginning is we need to get this out the way so that the fear has been addressed and the fear is no longer, shall we say, a little saboteur underneath everything that we're doing. So this might too be your reality. If you're listening to this, a passive response to it might be to sit there and go, oh yes, well, I'll try and not have fear. An active response is going to be, okay, I now know if fear comes up, I need to work with my fear. I need to look at my fear. I need to sit down and write out my fears, because these things are very insidious when they're allowed to remain in our unconscious or our subconscious and feed little messages into our mind. Writing out your fears is as powerful as writing out your hopes and dreams, because it's hard to get those fears down onto paper and look back at them and feel that they have a power that you perceive they have when you see them. Because your logical mind is able to then reflect on this thing that's in there. So the reason I bring this up is, for all of us, fear exists, and it is something that we've all been impacted by. And never more than now do we need to pay attention to when we're in fear and when we're in love or consciousness. So that brings me full circle. 2012 to 2019, what was that all about? So there has been an enormous amount of density clearing in the last 7 years. And like I said earlier, this last 2 years especially, it has very much been a case of let's shake the cage of your 3D energy body. So your 3D energy body, the far more animalistic response, the reptilian response, the part of us that is more programmed along what we're doing here, versus the part of us that's intuitive, heart open, accessing cosmic wisdom in our daily life, and able to not only elevate ourselves, but elevate the energy fields of others simply by being in that vibration. And it's work, you know, it's something that we will go in and out of. It's something that we learn to stabilize and to balance, and to increasingly learn to stabilize and to balance. And equally, as we grow and we evolve, we're then asked to look at the next lowest part in ourselves. As we move up, the lowest part of us moves too. And so you have this evolution, this expansion, and then this lowest part starts to shake and vibrate. And we have to let it dissolve and break off. So 2012 to 2019, for many people, a lot of people's story is like, wow, who put the brakes on? Like, I thought 2012 was going to be like the lid came off and the opening. And yeah, sure, I've made some progress, but it feels like A, that 7 years has gone by really fast, and B, the world doesn't look the way I thought it was going to. So while many of the challenges we are seeing in the world right now will continue to be themes in the next few years, some of them will exacerbate, some of them will modify. what we're also walking into is a time of elevation in terms of consciousness, energy, and people being connected to each other. So if you've had a really rough year or two, or a year or two that perhaps has had many good things in it, but you're also like, oh, I didn't expect to be having to move through some of this stuff, you're really primed for 2019 to be a year of beginnings for you. And the most important thing for all of us to understand is that for some of you listening, a year of new beginnings will be very evident beginnings. So new relationships, new places to live, new ways of working, new purpose and mission in your life. Yeah. For others who already look around and go, you know what, I've kind of got the things in my life organized that I've been working towards, but things aren't quite feeling as bright or as euphoric in that organization as I thought. You guys are at the beginning of, rather than a change like some of the others I just mentioned who are about to birth the externals in their life, those of you who've got the external grid sorted out, but you're still waiting for things to amplify, next year is the year that the roof can really come off on not only your projects and the things that you're birthing and bringing into the world, but most importantly, your experience of it. Many of you will have noticed time has got very, very weird in the last few years, even for those of us for whom time was always a bit weird before. Because what's happening with time right now is very fast periods of acceleration and then very deep periods of slowdown. And this can be very jarring because it can mean that you have like a forward shunt and then everything goes into stillness. And many of us still aren't accustomed to stillness, and yet stillness is where a great power lies. So especially, this is one of the reasons that the world is being encouraged into an overstimulated state. Because if you encourage people into an overstimulated state, they can't access the power that's here for them that is very important for the years to come. So a practical thing that you can do for yourself in 2019 to really enhance your abundance, new beginnings, is to see what stillness you can create for yourself and regularly. Now, stillness can simply look like this. 2 minutes, 3 minutes of this. Now, I should correct myself because the slight smile on my face is because I'm already in a nice time zone with you guys doing this. Perhaps if I've just been busy that day or life has been wavy, I might look more like this when I start the stillness. And I might need the stillness just to start to let that overstimulation burn off. If you're feeling anxious, stressed, overstimulated, it's going to be your job to support yourself out of those states and to either identify, is this my experience because I'm merging with a world that's very new to me and has a whole other level of speed and stimulation going on and I need to learn about that? Or is this something actually to do with me? Is some low-level anxiety that I'd never really noticed coming to the surface now and I need to support that in myself? What choices do I need to make? Do I need to not work as many hours as I just did? Paying real attention to the side of yourself that is all about stress and that is all about stimulation is going to be vital in the year to come. So really look at how you can support yourself with stillness, because cosmically, energetically, abundance is going to lie in the moments where you are still, where you are grateful, especially for those of you who do things in the world. So I would fall into that category too. Those of us that are out there doing things to move and to create energy, so important now to make sure there is a preserve and a temple zone for you around stillness. So that might look like starting a new practice to help you encourage stillness. Maybe you need to schedule meditation on your alarm every day. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's none of those things. It could just be you going and listening to classical music on headphones for 10 minutes a few times a day. This is going to be really important because there is going to be a differentiation between those who are doing and those who are being in 2019. And the ones who are able to be as well as do are going to see the most success. And the ones who are trying to do in order to be are going to hit some walls. It's a little like the people I spoke about who are really living in fear and have a very dark view of the planet, a very dark view of what's going on, and a very dark view of the future. Those energies can be all-consuming, and they want your attention. They want you to live and hang out there. So in terms of your energy mastery, this is really serious stuff. I mean, I've kind of been a consciousness seeker and student for 25 years. And on the one hand, of course, yes, I'm older now, so I have a slightly different vantage point of age. But if I just take that out of the equation and look at where we're at right now, never before have things been so sped up, so fast. But again, I'm called to say the opportunities now are for you to create life the way you want it to be, to create a new energy template through your way of being, because nobody is going to check that you're doing that, and nobody is going to wait for you to do that. You're going to have to make sure that that happens for yourself. And it's really crucial. So if any of you are sitting here going, yeah, I think this is me, I think I need to do this, and especially if you're sitting here going, I'm fried by the world, something has gone wrong. It's not that the world has gone wrong, it's that there is a part of you that is still trying to be the pattern that you were, and the world has changed. So now you have to create a new pattern for yourself. And it's like, oh, I'm going to have to learn some new tricks in the next year. And I know that some of you are sitting there going, oh God, I don't want to learn anything else. I'm kind of already exhausted by this planet, Lee. Well, there's a reason you're exhausted by the planet. And what I'm asking you to do is to figure out how you can respond to it differently and what you can invite yourself into in 2019, because there's some serious abundance and positive energy coming in. And for me, abundance is presence, connection, flow. So it can relate to money. If money is a stuck issue for you, or if you've got ideas about money that are limiting and you're not inviting yourself to a flow of money, so you're having a bit of a battle with money in your outer life and there isn't enough, and you're having to spend a lot of energy trying to make sure that your needs are met, that's an important one to shift. And that's going to be up for grabs in 2019, because there is a lot of light flooding the planet. And if you choose to align with it, it will help you drop more and more of what we call the 3D stuff a lot faster. Okay. The other piece that came to me in a big way is we're going to see a lot of relationship upgrades. So this, for many of you, has already been happening. Perhaps in the last year or two, you've gone through a lot of business relationships, friendships, romantic relationships. What I mean by the relationship upgrades is the place that everybody is moving towards, certainly in this group that I'm talking to, is a place of less attachment and less ancestral wounding. I'll explain that. In the old days, we were encouraged to have one family, one partner, look after your children. Maybe you also look after your neighbors. And that's kind of been the mentality template that's been out there, and that it's not safe to be vulnerable with strangers. Don't extend yourself to this person over here because that's not your world. That's going away. And what's really available to consciousness seekers and people who are wanting to embody awakened energy is relationship without attachment. So anybody that you meet becomes this beautiful soul, and you can clearly see some of their wounding perhaps, but you can also clearly see their brilliance and their love and their light in the way that they might see the same in us. They might see our brilliance, our love, and our light, and they might see where we've been wounded. But there's a compassionate eye and a compassionate heart for that person, because at the root of it, we recognize that all of us are here doing the best we can, trying to thrive and survive the best we can, and that nobody on earth gets away with a completely easy ride. Being on earth is an extraordinary thing, and it has many challenges too. So if you can come from that compassionate heart and start to embrace what I would call the one relationship more and more, and that is on the table in a much bigger way in 2019. You'll find that some of the conflict energy, some of the ruptures in relationship that have been to do with you healing ancestral wounds. So for example, the friend that you just fell out with last week, you fell out with her because you were playing out an issue from childhood with your blood sister that you'd never really resolved with your blood sister. So then you transfer it to a friend. And it's great because not only do you line it up with that friend that you're going to resolve that issue together, you also feel like you're kind of closer than you are with your blood sister because you could laugh together. So it's this cocktail of energies that we choose a person for. Playing out ruptures with people and either having to walk away or separate is going to go down for most of you and us. And that's really important because when we start to live in that place, we start to adopt much more of a group heart and a group consciousness. And that takes away that core wound of feeling alone. It's an interesting one because on the one hand, we're born alone to some degree, even though there are people there when we get here, and we'll die alone, or at least not everybody gets to die with the same people who were there when they were born. So there is some truth to the individuality of the soul and the solo journey of being a human. And yet, truth be told, the lack of community energy that we have been trained into is actually parasitic for us. It's actually a parasite for us to be so separated. It eats away our power, it eats away our connection, it eats away at our community. So my point being, that energy of oneness and community is going to be coming onto the planet at an even bigger level in the next 7 years. And a lot of the last 7 years has been upgrading people and getting them ready for that level of connection. So the way this may have shown up in your life, you might have really bonded with somebody this year or the year before that you never thought you'd bond with, or that you never thought you'd get so close to, reminding you that we can all become close to each other at any time if the intimacy and the vulnerability is allowed and the walls go down. Equally, you might feel like something you've been struggling with for a decade has suddenly resolved in your life, and your heart just feels a bit freer and lighter and brighter. And maybe you're looking around and going, you know, I don't really know who my friends are right now, but I feel kind of easy about people. You're going to see connected relationships coming into your life in a much more powerful way. And the most important thing to understand is we don't make a mistake when we go through these relationship ruptures. We're learning, we're growing, and we're each using the other person to look at and deal with a wound so that we can heal it. So try not to spend time in regret around past relationships that you feel didn't end as well as you would like to or blew up. And equally, if you are, as I'm speaking about this, feeling some heaviness or some tightness, or someone's coming to mind, send them a little email, send them a message, call them, write them a letter, or just energetically send them some love. If there's a place in your heart that you're feeling shut down a bit and it doesn't feel good, you can actually take a step towards the opposite of that, depending on what feels right. Sometimes we aren't meant to reconnect with certain people, or we aren't meant to reconnect with them in a deep way. But sometimes just sending them a hug or some gratitude energetically, or writing something to them, or writing a letter to them that you perhaps don't send, can be very powerful too, just to move some of that energy and open your heart up again. Because connected relationships are going to be a really important thing in the next few years. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to deeply connect with the heart of humanity. And the level of consciousness around that is about to go over the next few years. Oh, I like this. I didn't hear that sound effect. It just came out my body. So there you go. So ancestral, less ancestral, and attachment energy, those things are moving out. More consciousness and oneness is moving in. So if you're sitting here crying right now because you're going, oh my God, my relationships are in tatters, don't worry, that's just the part of the process you're in. And particularly if you're having chronic times in relationships right now, you're really feeling this energy I'm talking about coming in. And so you've kind of taken a sledgehammer to your life at speed in order to get ready for more connection. And it will come, but the wound that we often feel when we lose a friendship, lose a loved one, is we feel this wound of aloneness. And as anybody who has lost a loved one to death will tell you, it's a very strange thing when you lose a loved one. On the one hand, you grieve them and you miss them in the physical reality, and the grief process is a roller coaster, and some days you feel spiritually okay about it, and other days you're just mad and like angry and upset, and why aren't they here? But even the people who are riding that grief wave will say to you on the good days, they'll go, wow, I really feel like they're here. It's weird. I feel like they're in my body. I feel like I'm becoming them a bit more. It's very, very spiritually deep process. And that's going to start to happen a lot more without the catalyst of someone having to die in your life for you to feel that. Which leads me to the next piece for 2019. Telepathic consciousness and communication is about to go up again. And no, I don't mean Facebook and the internet, even though I do think that that has some, it's interesting, there's some mirroring around social media and the internet around telepathy and the hive mind, which is interesting. But we had a really strong wave of this kicking in between about 2008 to about 2011, 2012. There was a strong acceleration for people around higher self, higher mind, psychic thought, telepathy. And it's not that it's gone away the last 6 years, it's just been a bit more dormant. You know, energy currents, it's like the weather. One day it's a bit more cloudy than the day before, another day it's a bit more rainy. What I was shown earlier today when I was meditating on this call with you guys, telepathy, higher consciousness, connection to higher self, universal wisdom, what you might call visionary experiences, they're about to go up again, which for those of you who are visionary hedonists, you can celebrate. You can still do ayahuasca if you want, but you might not need to do it quite as much in the years to come, because it's going to be the case that, especially if you tap into this stillness and guard this stillness I was speaking about, that we all need to attend to, there is an enormous power and wisdom in the still moments. And I'm a big believer, and I see this to be true for me, and I see it for people I work with. You don't need to always have a 7-day silent meditation retreat. That in itself is a really powerful thing to do. But actually, you can take the silence in pockets of 5-10 minutes a day, 4, 5, 6 times a day. That in itself can keep you stabilized and can keep you open to receiving enough. Because one of the things that is required to be able to access your higher self, your telepathy, your visionary mind, your psychic self, you have to be able to receive. So there are some very powerful healers who are brilliant at receiving this information for others and not so adept at giving that to themselves. And that's going to do a bit of a 360. So if you've always been a good psychic healer or visionary for others, but it hasn't been great for you when you focused it on yourself, that's about to go the other way. And vice versa. Perhaps you've always been someone who's comfortable with your own intuition and your own psychic voice or psychic wisdom applied to yourself, but when it comes to others, you're a little shy. You're going to find it much easier to use that wisdom voice for others in a way that they will find very effective and that they will be grateful for. So that brings me to the very last piece before we go to your questions. And that is grounded magic. Some of you may have heard me talk about this in a recent energy update. Grounded magic, the ability to create magical things for people, and how I experience grounded magic, and many of you I'm sure will identify with this. It's that moment when the air or your body crackles. You know, it's like when you meet someone at a party and you're like, oh my God, I've known this person before, and there's just this vibe and there's this electric current between us. For me, it can happen when I'm working on a painting, or when I'm channeling for a group, or when I'm creating something else. For others, I hear they say, when I'm cooking and working with food and making food medicine for people, I basically am in my flow and in my zone. So there are many areas that a lot of us have cultivated our grounded magic in, and we've got good at creating grounded magic in those areas. Well, in general, that energy is about to be shared more outside those energies. Conversations will become a little more alive. There will be a bit more heart and third eye energy present between people. People are good with, let's say, the base chakra. So if you think about it, one of the highest experiences that many people will talk about, particularly when younger, but it's that idea that one of the most cosmic experiences that you have is being able to be attracted to someone and make love to them, or have a beautiful cosmic sexual experience. The reason that's often referred to is because base energy is a lot of energy and it moves a lot in the body. So with another person, you have that alchemical reaction. That energy happening more and more, whether with or without lovemaking, is going to be much more the norm. So when I talk about grounded magic, I mean the moment when life just comes alive. And they're the moments I love and I live for. And I also kind of like, doing the admin and the housework and the things that you do to push things around, because sometimes you can't always live in that expansion. And the balance between the two is really good. But for those of you who feel that life is missing some magic, especially if you're looking at people around you and they don't have the same beliefs, you're going to need to find other people to mirror this with you. You don't have to not be friends or partnered with the people who are in your life who aren't feeling the magic of life, but you're going to need to be around other people who also feel that way at least some of the time, because magic people amplify other magic people. It's like you put two magic people in a room, people who can access magic, and the whole thing starts to crackle and energize. So this is also where isolation is dangerous. Many of you who've been with me for many years will have heard me say, the remedy for a sensitive is often to isolate when they've overexposed themselves, done too much. But I always say, and it took me years to learn this, isolation can become a very ill-fitting outfit. And you get into a habit of isolating because you think you need to be isolated more, and then you get a bit more depressed about it. But actually, the truth is that's when you need to engage. Comes a point when you need to engage with life, with connection, with nature, with creativity. So, grounded magic in 4 and 5D. And last but not least, love and grace will be oxygen in 2019. Love and grace will be oxygen in 2019. When we are oxygenated, we do well. So make sure that you make a commitment to experience more love and grace. If you're doing an intention list on New Year's Day, if you're doing a resolution, anything, if you're in my Rebirth program 2019, make sure when we do the middle day intentions, which will fall on December the 31st, that you put love and grace on that sheet, because love and grace are going to be big in the years to come in terms of amplifying and supporting abundance, connection, and an elevated reality. Just to remember, early on in this, I talked about we're about to hit a real divide point in where people go. There are going to be people who are able to remain mostly expanded and mostly conscious, even if they're going in and out of the process a little bit. And then there are going to be those people who things are going to have to get worse before they get better. So if that's been your story for the last year or two, you're already ready to kind of go the other way. If you're someone who hasn't really felt like the last year or two, you certainly wouldn't call them chronic. A lot of elevation is about to take place. So I think I have covered both the details that were coming through me, but more than anything, the energy. These things, whether I'm channeling the Z's or whether I'm being an energy intuitive, which is a slightly more grounded version of channeling the same source, it's really an energy dance and an energy movement. And there's a lot of possibility coming up. And I think that can be an overused word. It's a good thing to remember anything is possible, but I mean it very strongly. I was quite surprised when I was shown 2019 to 2026, beginning of a new cycle, new beginnings, and beginnings of new levels of reality, not just new things in your life. So for those of you who feel like the last 2-3 years have felt like preparation, in a way they were. And the next 2-3 years, you're going to see things really go up a gear. So stay active, stay alert. I will be serving you all through the year with my monthly energy updates, unless, God forbid, something happens to me, in which case, have a great time, and I'll be waving at you all from above. I'm just teasing. I have no intention of going anywhere this year. Yeah, I'll be serving you all through the energy updates every month. Those of you in my portal community who get this experience of the video broadcast every month too, and the MP3s that we put out there to support, and other ways. But if this is the only time and place I see you this year, then thanks for tuning in, and I wish you loads of love with your journey. But we're not done yet, because there were some great questions that were sent in. So I'm going to ask Marty Bradley, a fabulous member of my team here at Lee Harris Energy. Great, great, great team work with me and have worked with me for many years, some of them. And Marty is the longest serving member of the team at 7 years, almost 8 years. So Marty is in Colorado right now, and she's going to join us by audio to give me some of your questions. Hi, Marty.
Hello. It's such a privilege to be here with you, and we have some great questions.
How are you doing, Marty? How's your year ahead feeling to you, just before we dive into the questions?
I am well, and I'm feeling the new beginnings coming. I feel that brewing. That's certainly true for my story. Lots of change coming up for me. So right on target.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. And yeah, I'd love to take some of the questions.
Okay. First one we have is, what are the guides recommending will best serve us, for example, fasting, meditation, surrender, in integrating the new energies of the solstice and moving into 2019?
Interesting. So immediately what I hear is balance. Find your balance point. And interestingly, because I myself, I fasted 30 days and just did juice once for 30 days. It was fantastic. I've experienced many of what I might call the more extreme consciousness jumps. But what I'm hearing for the solstice this week is balance. And I don't actually get that extreme actions in the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to be a good idea for most people. Now, sure, if you're feeling really chronic about life, like you really need a jump start, using some extreme might be helpful. But for most of us, keeping balance, because the energies are extreme anyway. And one of the things that's really important right now is you finding your center in it. So interestingly, when you ask that question, which is a great question, finding your balance point. And I would say that one of the things that was coming through so strongly was the stillness and the silence. The importance of reflective time right now, or quiet time where you can let things come in. So I would say nothing too extreme unless you feel like you need a serious jump start in your life. And I mean serious. If you aren't feeling that, really see what you can do to help yourself feel balanced and more stable and more calm, so that you can receive the energies. And what I personally would do with that kind of advice is I would take it easy on the solstice and do things that I know are going to be nourishing. I would turn off anything that I think isn't going to help, like the news cycle, or maybe if I feel I need a break from, the computer messages or the telephone, I would just go silent on those for however many hours felt right. And I would give yourself some time with nature and with a journal. Nature might mean meditating in your local park. If you are a city dweller and don't have an outdoor space, it might be a tree outside your window, or it might be really immersing yourself, because the one great thing about nature is it resets us really fast. If ever we're out of balance or out of whack, going into nature or meditating on something that is from the natural world will help reset our rhythms. The other thing that I always advise is water. Shower, bath, being in bodies of water, it resets our electrical circuitry. So if ever you're feeling highly stimulated or like you need to wash off the world energetically, using water to do it will reset your circuitry. So enjoy your solstice and take some time to do whatever feels right to you. So rather than the mind that has previously stored away some idea of meditate, fast. Try all those things on in the body. You know, the body test is what I call letting the body's wisdom tell me. So I go, okay, meditate. I'll consider meditating for 20 minutes and see how that feels. Okay, now I consider not meditating for 20 minutes and see how that feels. My body feels happier and more lifted if I don't meditate for 20 minutes. That's interesting. So now I'll keep going through my list to see and find what is it the body needs. Because especially if we're up here too much, we disconnect from the sensory intelligence and intuition of the body. So I do what I call the body test a lot. If ever I can't quite get clear up here, I go into the body and ask the body to show me what it will feel like if I walk it into a certain experience. So I hope that helps, and happy solstice.
Great. And the next one sort of follows on that theme and expands from it. What would be the most helpful strategy to keep the mind and emotions from going in circles when annoying situations and people come up in everyday life? It seems to me that more and more people are becoming more selfish and narcissistic. Will this trend continue? Being in public gets more and more difficult for me as my senses open up more and more.
I think a couple of things. So number one, there is a truth in what you're saying to some degree, but also we magnetize the truth, right? So we can magnetize angry people all day, or we can magnetize loving people, depending on our focus, what we need to learn. I don't personally believe that the whole world is becoming more narcissistic and selfish. I can see that there is a tendency for people to be asleep at the wheel more, but I don't think that means that emotionally they are rewiring themselves at the core. I think it's just that people need help with awareness. Equally, I'm seeing more teachers of awareness than I've ever seen or met in my life. So I think it's important that you identify, okay, I need to meet more people who are aware, heartfelt, sensitive. Otherwise, you're going to feel very isolated and you're going to feel like the only one in the world. And I can assure you, I know there are around 6,000 people alone who signed up for this broadcast in, up until today. And then there are hundreds of thousands every month that see my energy update. And I'm just one of many, many people out there sharing information, tools, energy for people to resonate with. So there's a huge community of sensitive people in the world who want what you want. So either because of your past or because of wounds you're healing or because of a belief you've adopted, there's a part of you that thinks this is just how it's going. And you're more in control of it than that. You're more in the driver's seat. So make some real intentions for really good community. But equally, it might be that your patterns are changing. There was a time when and I mean, this can still happen to me, although I rarely go. There was a time when I was like, oh, I just can't do the shopping mall anymore. And I would fight it and I would try and be okay in the mall. But I just kind of, oh, that's just not for me. So it might be that there are certain things that you're trying to do that are currently unsatisfying, but equally, you focusing on community satisfaction and good people in your life is going to be really huge. And it will be a healing from this very thing that you're talking about. And there are other people on the planet who need the same circumstances and connections that you do. So I would say, get curious about things you're not doing in your life right now and see what new opportunities, groups, things that are out there are for you. But equally make a really clear intention that, okay, I don't want to live in isolation as a sensitive person. I want other sensitive people in my life that I can connect with, that I can do things with. And that in itself will become the remedy to the very thing that is paining you right now. I hope that makes sense, and lots of love.
Great. The next one is, a lot of us are trying to birth new businesses and support positive community doing good work in the world. But I'm finding often not as many light workers are receiving the support and funding we need to anchor this properly. So we invest our own energy and money until we burn out and don't have enough. How
Mhm.
do we open ourselves to receive more so we can properly balance receiving and giving and become more supported in 2019?
Okay, well, I'll speak personally before I speak generally about this because it's a really good question. There was a time with my work where I realized I really had to befriend money more. Um, and, I didn't have a huge block around money. It wasn't like I was someone who was anti the money system, or which it's not that I'm also not close to the idea that that new money and new energy around money changes in the years to come. I'm really open to seeing more of a bartering and exchange system happening. But while we don't have that in place, money is the system. And what I realized for me was part of my mission was to create experiences for other people that some would involve the exchange of money, and people would be happy to give me and my team money in exchange for the energy and the time and the money I was spending to create these things. But equally, I wanted to be able to produce things for free. And there are still things that we're working on that will be coming out next year where that's true. But in the meantime, it means things like this, which I'm investing money in and time in, and other people that I'm bringing in are being paid to do this. So the point I'm making to you is I went through several years where I had to be willing to let the financial support around what I was doing grow, so that I moved out of being a one-man band in 2010 with very few resources to actually get production quality up, and also to be able to serve people regularly and put essentially energetic food out there for people. So I had to go through a real process with that, and it wasn't always comfortable. And I worked with people on it as well. I'd have a coach for a few sessions, or I happened to befriend a financial planner during that period, and I heard about their experience with money. So I would say study money, not because it's a solvable equation, but because you focusing on money for a while is going to show you what it is and what it isn't. And it's also going to give you a powerful opportunity to look very closely at the one area that for you at the moment is evading you, because money is energy. And I've known very, very wealthy people, and I've known people who have nothing. And I have seen miserable, very wealthy people, and I've seen very happy, abundant people with very little in terms of financial money, but they're living their life. And I think what I'm hearing with you is the giving is imbalanced, which is common for healers and light workers. And it comes from a good place, but ultimately it bites us on the arse. I'm sure if we took a survey of how many people on this call have had burnout, I'm sure we'd all put our hands up at least once in our lives, if not many times. But what you learn from that is you're like, okay, I don't have to overextend. I will extend as much as I can, and I will monitor how much is coming in to support this too. Otherwise, I'm taking it all on my shoulders. So I would say for you, what I get intuitively is you've got great ideas and you've got great offerings. But remember, it's important to test whether or not other people are willing to reciprocate with that. Is it worth other people giving their time, their money, their energy? Are they showing you that's a yes? Or are they showing you that's a no, in which case maybe your idea needs to be modified? Or perhaps more importantly, you need to get to a place where you realize that you can allow more money in. And the way I look at it is none of us are going to take money with us when we die. For me, money is energy. And actually receiving money means not that you have money, but that you are a custodian of it. And pretty much everyone I know who's a light worker, really, most of them are quite generous at heart and benevolent. And what I would say to you is, imagine if you expanded how much money you will allow yourself to conduit. Imagine how much more money you could spread around. I have to say that's one of the greatest joys for me, being able to spread money around as it has come in, including into putting money into investing in projects that go out to people for free or very inexpensively. So I think it would be great for you to really focus on this as a personal development project in the next 3 to 6 months. Maybe work with someone specifically on your relationship to money, and really allow it in, because it's just energy. But what I will tell you is that one of the reasons we're afraid to let the money in is actually it can bring with it a load of problems. Money brings with it a whole new level of responsibility. Money energy in reverse. You know, I've got a few very wealthy friends who have shared with me all their horror stories about how when you are the person with resources, how other people treat you. And so I think there are many shadows around having money that are subconscious for us. And the truth is, unless you're in that position, you'll never know. So I would dig in a little bit, and I would look at your relationship to giving and receiving and the fact that you're imbalanced in giving. And I would look at your ideas and beliefs around money itself. I hope that helps, and good luck.
Okay, and I think we've come to the final question.
Great.
Understanding all that is brought to us is for our higher learning and evolvement. What tools and inner knowings will help us to stay calm, comfortable, and accept at our core understanding that all is truly well in 2019?
I would say that when you are non-calm, uncomfortable, feeling like things aren't well, being willing to embrace and go beyond the suck. Meaning, one of the most powerful things that we can do when things are like in us is, rather than just keep running that pattern as pattern, become aware that's our pattern and go, oh, when these events line up this way, I always have a stress response. I've noticed this over the last 5 months and I keep having it. What is that? What's underneath that? Where did it come from? Where did it start? The reason I say that is being calm all the time requires a certain level of disconnect from everybody. And I don't get the feeling that that's exactly who you are. What I can say is I can access a deeper state of profound well-being more than I've ever been able to before. But I still, like many on the planet, have those tests. Those moments of, oh, let's see how he handles this amount of stress. Now let's see how he handles this. And so what I'm learning is that that is life, that the test is part of getting back to calm and well-being, and that the more I can fill up my cup and remain full, then those challenges and those tests become less. I get through them faster, and I actually develop an even stronger energy field. And why that motivates me is, on the one hand, personal happiness, yeah, okay. But actually, because for me, personal happiness is so interwoven with collective happiness, for me, it's such a dance. It's like, I don't know about you guys. I'm sure many of you feel the same. I don't feel like there is that much of a, I have a personal self, and I do have certain things I like to do, but I don't want to do them for 5 months by myself. I'm back in and out with people. And for me, that's part of my mission, being here among and with people rather than being an isolated person, or someone who's here for nature, or someone who is here for animals. So I think what I would say to you is, I get a sense that you perhaps have more of an introvert in you than I do, but at the same time, I feel the mission in you. So what I would say is, get really good at learning about returning to calm, returning to well-being when those things go off. And then we won't worry so much about those going off, because we go, oh, I know how to calm myself. It's that I sit down and listen to classical music for 5 minutes with my headphones on. I breathe. I sit there and I take in a nice steady breath. And I let it all go. And even though my head is busy with a story of how things aren't calm, I just keep focusing on the breathing for 3 or 4 minutes because I know it works. Or I run around my house 3 times. Or there are things that we can do to help us manage our stress and bring us back to balance. So I offer that to you, and thank you for the question. Marty, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, it was my honor.
Okay, guys, well, thank you for joining tonight. I hope that you've enjoyed it. The replay will be available if you want to re-experience this, because on the one hand, it's information, and on the other hand, tonight's call was an energy download about the future. For those of you who want to go deeper with me, this Christmas we are doing Rebirth 2019, which is a 7-day online experience. Now, it's something that takes place over December 28th to January the 3rd, but it will be available all year too, because really it's a primer for the energy of 2019. And I will be teaching several different topics, including connected relationships, your voice, the leader, sensitive power, how sensitives access, maintain their power, and things along the lines of intentions, visions, and 2 live broadcasts where I'll be channeling the Z's too, and talking about the energy of 2018 and what we've experienced and wrapping that up and visioning into the future what it is that you want to create. At the moment, we have 1,300 people in Rebirth already, so it's quite a tribe that are gathered around it. And what I loved most last year too was we have a private Facebook group as well as the forum area inside the course, and the amount of sharing and talking and energy that was going on between people was fantastic. So it's video, it's audio, we have several pieces of music and bonus downloads, and when you sign up, there will immediately be a download for you called Lightbringers, Light Will Find You, which is exclusive to Rebirth, and it was just recorded last month. It's a channeled message with sound healing and music that was recorded live at my Soul Magic Costa Rica retreat. Now, Soul Magic Costa Rica is a 7-day experience that I do in October every year, and it's really me working with people live in the room. We work in a circle for 7 days, and we basically work on and with the energies that are about to come in the year ahead, and how do we become the most loving and adjusted and happy and balanced human beings we can be right now. So it's usually an amazing group, and this year was no exception. And we've just opened booking on next year, which is the only retreat experience I will do for the whole year. And that's October 19th to the 26th. So 2 things for you to check out if you've enjoyed tonight. Soul Magic Costa Rica next October. We have payment plans available, and it's all up online now. And rebirth2019.com is where you can go to learn more about Rebirth, which, as I said, is starting in, I think, 10 days. Can't wait to deliver all those goodies to you. And thank you to those of you who are already in Rebirth 2019. Check out the details at the page to see if it resonates with you. And for those of you who've joined us tonight live, thank you for being here. And for any of you watching the replay, this has been a pleasure, and really, really aware that so many of you are ready to upshift. Don't be surprised that you're feeling a little nervous or a little rocked at the moment, a little like, whoa, what's going on? There are a lot of people on this call and around the world who are really ready to take things to the next level, and that's happening now. It's not just something in the future, it's happening now, and you're in it. You're in the, not the undertow exactly, but the slipstream of it. So I hope that this broadcast has clarified some things, and for those of you taking Rebirth, we'll go even deeper on how to create your best life for 2019. Big love, everybody. Thank you for joining. Take care, and see you soon. Hey everyone. 2018 has been a huge year, and 2019 and beyond is going to be very similar. So I'm happy to announce I'm doing Rebirth 2019 over the Christmas and New Year period. It's an online experience where I will take a deep dive with you at both integrating and cleansing from the year that we've been through, while also taking the gifts of what you have learned, and having a deep look at what's coming up next year and beyond, so that you can supercharge your year ahead. A few of the themes that have come to me, and I will be doing video teachings on these, are sensitive power, the gifts of sensitives and how they can harness those. Connected relationships, how to connect really deeply in all our relationships and how to know when and why to boundary. And also your voice being the leader of change in your life. Stephen Washington will bring a day of wellness and Qigong medicine, and all of this will be bookended by 2 live broadcasts where I lead you through a process to be free of 2018, and I channel and give you information about what's coming in 2019 and the year ahead. There will be many bonus MP3s, channelings, sound healings. It's going to be quite the package, and I know that Christmas is a busy time, so you will have forever access to all of these videos and materials once we're through the process. But last year, we had almost 1,400 people join us from 40 plus countries. So there was an incredible group energy around this. So joining to be part of it once we start is a great thing to do, a great way to go into next year. Me and my team can't wait to bring this to you. So if you want to join us, check out all the details at the page, rebirth2019.com. See you there.